So I was hoping that our next David update was going to be he got arrested, end of story. Well, not end of story, but hopefully now the authorities can do what they need to do and this case will come ideally to some kind of close, some kind of conclusion. That is not what is happening right now. Actually, my gripe with the authorities now has transcended just being about the fact that they seemingly are doing nothing, but it's also the fact that them doing nothing and them, dilly-dallying or doing whatever they're doing is giving way to people to make crazy, crazy theories. Now, some of these theories I think are actually credible. Some of them are completely possible, like the concept that I mentioned in prior videos about Celeste potentially being pregnant. That is potentially true. That's not completely far-fetched. Some of them are more far-fetched, and I'm not even going to go into those. But there are some theories that actually, when you start looking into them, they make sense, but the worst part is that people are running crazy with these. I don't know where the fuck David is or what's going on with him. He's probably just chilling. And it seems like this is going absolutely nowhere. Ironically, it seems like social media is, quote unquote, doing more than the authorities, which is disappointing, but not surprising. So anyway, let's talk about what I found online because this is such a shit show. I'm telling you now, it is a shit show. I've tried to organize it, but yikes. So one of the big theories going on right now is that there were actually two Celestes. Now, that sounds crazy when I put it this way, but what that means is that there was a Celeste Rivas, which is the one we've been talking about, and then there's a Celeste Herrera, apparently. Now, these two Celestes have an age gap. There's the Celeste we've been talking about until now, who was a young teen, not even an adult yet, and the other Celeste, who apparently is 23. The other Celeste, who is 23, apparently is a friend of David's and is seen in pictures with David. I found her alleged Instagram, and even in her bio it says, not that Celeste. So this person has already been looped into all of this. I don't really want to put screenshots of all of that. I don't want them to get a bunch of messages, especially if they turn out to have nothing to do with it. Let's not do that. Someone tweeted, David knows both the victim, Celeste Rivas and Celeste Herrera, both have been together. Celeste Rivas was with David on the dates of her disappearance. Here we see a picture of David, and in the background we see who is supposedly Celeste Rivas, the one who was murdered. In this other picture, we see the back of Celeste Rivas with I think it looks like some type of bandana. And then the person with a yellow circle, that should be Celeste Herrera, the older one. So if this is effectively true, these two Celestes were in the same place at the same time and knew David at the same time. Why does this matter? Well, what matters about this is that a lot of the things that we've been interpreting about David have been based on the name Celeste. Now, if there are two Celestes, you see how this quickly becomes confusing. And a lot of people were making memes about how David would be enthused to see this happening because now he has an out. So if he has a song with the name Celeste in it, instead of admitting, oh yeah, I'm a pedophile and I was quote unquote dating this 15-year-old, he could actually be like, oh no, that's Celeste Herrera, my friend who's 23, blah, blah, whatever. So it gives him an out. These are things that people were making memes about. Now, another thing that has come out since the potential existence in the same universe of these two Celestes is the fact that they think that older Celeste killed younger Celeste. Now, I just think that's a crazy theory that comes out of nowhere because there's nothing saying that they were enemies or not friendly or if they even knew each other that well to consider each other. I just think that's crazy, but it is a theory that's going on, and that's why I was going off at the beginning of this video about how authorities lagging gives people time to come up with these theories that I think are unfounded. Now, the fact that there are two Celestes and that David could play with that in his favor, I think is just a fact, but everything else that's coming out is so far-fetched. Some things that I didn't even screenshot because I don't think it's positive putting certain things out there, certain conspiracies that are so far-fetched that it's like, what are you doing? This does not help anyone. Anyway, on that same note, the people who saw this picture with Second Celeste, I'm going to call her Second Celeste, the older one is going to be Second Celeste. Second Celeste, they're saying that her name is actually Vanessa. So there are multiple people who either look alike or that people are conflating into one single entity here. So there is a Celeste Herrera. I found her account. I didn't see any pictures of her though. unless it's her, but we can't confirm that it's her because people are saying that this is a girl called Vanessa who's just a completely different person. So you see why I'm saying that all of this is spiraling, because she's being attributed an identity that might not be hers. And even if she was second Celeste, then so what? It doesn't necessarily mean anything. So this is spiraling so quickly out of control. And the thing is, I wasn't even looking for theories. I was looking for updates about David, and this popped up. And then I saw how common this running theory is of a second Celeste. So, like I said, a whole mess. So another quick thing we should talk about in terms of the two Celestes, there's this TikTok user, and I'll link them down below. There are 2 TikToks that they made. I'm gonna put them here because they're extremely relevant to this entire conversation. It is so incredibly messy and confusing, and a lot of this is hearsay, which again, sorry to repeat myself, but if the authorities had been a little bit more diligent, I think that we wouldn't get to this point where there's all this bullshit going on, because at this point it's very hard to tell what's actually a credible source, what is a credible theory, what's just a theory, and what is just made up by people who are chronically online.
If you're following the case of David, you need to hear this brand new information because it makes a lot of things more clear. So someone close to David posted this. It's a little long, but trust me, it's worth listening to. They said, "So I have a friend who was friends with David and I was around David because of him. Heads up, it's a long read. My friend and I found out about the car September 8th and my friend contacted David after and he just responded with, 'I can't say anything about that because I don't know what's going on. My car was stolen and I'm talking to the police.'" That was the last thing David said. As things started to come out online and the ID of the victim, we realized that the body that was found was his GF Celeste, the 19-year-old we met a few times after his shows, kickbacks, parties. One thing I can talk about that I'm 100% sure is that there was 2 Celestes because I've met them both and I've spoken to them both. One thing about that looking back that I find weird is that when they were both in the same room, the older one called herself Cece. If one was there and the other one wasn't, she would call herself Celeste. That wasn't too close to David, but my friend was. He was always invited to the events or kickbacks at his place or his shows at hotels, and he would bring me with him. He was always surrounded by streamers and TikTokers, Mark's fat at, and this guy Ben. Now when we would stream with other people at his place, he would pull Celeste, the minor, to the side and tell her he was going to stream and she can watch him in the room, so the girl would go hide out. I specifically remember this because this happened during a tattoo party he threw, and there was a female artist and she actually refused to tattoo minor Celeste because she needed an actual copy for her consent form. And the minor Celeste was asking for a butterfly behind her neck like Cece, and I remember the artist kept saying no, and David started to get annoyed and told the artist that she lost out on the clientele he was going to bring her, and she said that was fine, she just has a policy like his NDA that she likes to follow. He tried to tell the artist that Celeste already had tattoos and she shouldn't worry about it because she's 19, and she told David, "Dude, I'm not gonna lie, she looks 13, I need the ID, I respect your NDA, please respect my policy." David just said okay, pulled Celeste to the side and told her he was gonna call his other artist later and that he was going to stream, so she should go to her room, she can come out when he is done, and he kissed her on the forehead, came back to the artist, apologized to her, and gave her a side hug. When David left, I asked the tattoo artist if this was the first time she's tattooed him, and she said no, this was her second time because last party a guy named Mark told her Celeste was a minor, but she wasn't sure if that was true or not, but if so, she wanted nothing to do with that stuff, and she didn't understand why the last party she came and that CC girl was getting called a different name and couldn't remember what, but it wasn't Celeste. I tried reaching out to the artist but got no reply. I tried again recently but noticed she hasn't posted since November of last year, which is scary. Also, I'm hearing that the older Celeste is now claiming that she never knew or met the younger Celeste, and that's a damn lie. She always looked annoyed and miserable and always seemed bothered when the younger Celeste was around and she wasn't getting David's attention. It always seemed like a love triangle. I know David has family in Texas and I know he's from New York City, so maybe he's out there hiding, but let's hope Celeste gets justice and the older Celeste needs to be questioned because it's crazy odd that she's seen wearing a dead girl's clothes. She always gave me bad vibes. Rest in peace to Celeste. Let me know what you guys think about this, and as anything comes out, I'll keep you guys updated.
So, like I said prior, all of this is extremely messy, and the concept of there being 2 Celestes just seems like such an odd yet convenient, I wouldn't say coincidence, but occurrence. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about where you live. Where I live, I don't even know one Celeste, so the fact that there were 2 Celestes at a party, that one was conveniently of age, at least 18, I think she's 23 like we said, and then one was underage, and I don't know, the whole thing is just very odd to me. Again, it could just be a coincidence, 2 people have the same name, 2 friends of David, okay, I guess. aside from that, the concept of the tattoo artist and the friend, allegedly David's friend, I think it was Mark, who alerted the tattoo artist that Celeste was underage, that goes to back up everything that we've been saying so far, that people around him to some extent knew. And when I say to some extent, I mean, I don't think every one of his friends knew, obviously, but the people who were around him the most, and I think the people who probably heard Celeste speak, could tell she was not 18. Like we've said before, the difference of how someone who's 13 or 15 speaks as opposed to someone who's 18, how they manage issues, it's evident. These videos add some kind of context, though it's still all extremely weird. What else? Well, people online are kind of trying to pinpoint the digital footprint in terms of the last time that Celeste was seen on video, especially on video, but in photos posted online that either she or David posted to get some idea of a timeline. Though, of course, you can post things that were from, 2 years ago. But it appears that David had a concert and that Celeste was at this concert. Now, again, this is all a theory because the video is pretty grainy. It could be someone who looks like her. It doesn't necessarily have to be her. But here's what the same TikToker said about that.
We may now know the last time Celeste was seen alive. There are some crazy new updates in this case. So video resurfaced from one of David's concerts in Silver Spring, Maryland from either August 23rd or 24th of this year. In the video, David looks up, makes a heart gesture with his hands, and points at someone in the upper level. And when people took a closer look, they realized that that girl looks very similar to Celeste. And the person next to her looks a lot like David's brother, who was known to go backstage with Celeste to watch the concerts. Now, it hasn't been confirmed, but if that is Celeste, these are the last photos of her alive and could narrow down the timeline of her death before she was found 2 weeks later.
On the note of Celeste being backstage at this concert, there's a tweet that I found where there's footage of Celeste supposedly backstage. Now, one of the markers of Celeste is that apparently she was wearing Hello Kitty Crocs, and it appears that the person in this clip is also wearing Hello Kitty Crocs, and obviously they also look like Celeste. Therefore, a lot of people are assuming that it is Celeste backstage again at David's concert. So this is the clip of that. So the person with Celeste, they're saying, is apparently David's brother. I suppose that doesn't super matter in the sense of I'm assuming people very close to David knew about Celeste. It'd be hard for me to think that they knew absolutely nothing. But if this actually is the brother, clearly he knew something. And being around Celeste, I'm assuming he at some point discerned that she was not 18. But I digress. So the video that I showed you before of the TikTok user talking over the concert video where Celeste allegedly was, here's the video itself. It's a zoomed in video of the concert with Celeste on some kind of balcony, allegedly Celeste on some kind of balcony. I don't know what to make of it. And this, if this actually was her, this would have made it so that she was still alive. I believe this was August 24th or 25th. So that's very shortly before she was found, right? And when she was found in a certain state of decomposition, which they obviously don't outline, but that implies that this could have been, within a week of when she actually passed away. So a last quick thing in terms of David, and this was posted on the Los Angeles Times 2 hours ago, and this is on Sunday. So it says that David's abandoned Tesla was ticketed 11 days before Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body was found inside. So I don't really think that's a super big deal in the sense of we don't know if her body was already inside the car those 11 days prior. And aside from that, even if it had been in the car, depending on the decomposition, it's not like the police necessarily would have smelled anything. And I think that when police are ticketing a car, I don't think they automatically become suspicious to check more, right? So the car being ticketed, I don't think is a massive deal. More than anything, this article, and I'm not going to go into it because it's paragraphs upon paragraphs saying very little that we don't already know, but it was saying about how Neighbors were complaining that the car was in the same place for well over a month. It looked like it was not moved at all. And apparently neighbors did complain about this, which then resulted in the cops either rolling up because people complained enough, or, just someone passing by and they noticed that this car was there for multiple days on end, if not the month, like people were saying. I really hope they start wrapping this up, not as in get over it, move on, as in can we get to the point? Because it seems like here you have a man who looks extremely guilty, who for some reason hasn't been arrested, yet everything points to him, and there's still articles voicing it as it's unclear if they were connected, Celeste and David, and it's like, how is it unclear? I'm confused about that. So I really hope that they make some progress, even just for the families involved, because dragging it out like this, like I said, will lead to people coming up with theories. Whether they're valid or not is a different story, but coming up with theories endlessly for long periods of time, if this keeps dragging on, I don't think will help anyone necessarily. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.